Growing up, New Year's has always been something exciting that I always look forward to. You get to start the year fresh, have a clean slate, trying out something new, moving on to new things, new endeavors, and new adventures. But lately, or rather the last few years at least, it started to be something I dreaded. It all started out when a bunch of friends and I were hanging out on a New Year's Eve waiting for the countdown to happen. And what was supposed to be a fun and exciting night turned out to be quite the opposite for me. And when we were catching the fireworks, the thoughts just never went away. In fact, they got even more intense. Thoughts like, what have you done in this past year? Another year is coming to an end. What have you done? You wasted another year, didn't you? You're getting older and you are nowhere near where you have set yourself out to be. You see, these thoughts were actually pretty scary because they were actually true. I couldn't bring myself to move forward into the next year because I kept having the feeling of, what if the same thing happens again? What if I'll just end up wasting another year because I'm not going to be where I want to be? I've always been an ambitious person. I've always set goals for myself. But year after year, time after time, I always end up falling short of the expectations that I set. And perhaps that may have caused me to feel stagnant or complacent at times, because I can always tell myself that I will not succeed anyways, so why bother trying? But don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I've stopped setting goals and expectations for myself, but maybe I just don't set it as high as how I used to. I'm not sure if any of you can relate to this, but sometimes to ensure that I wouldn't fail, I will always make sure that everything is in order before I start working on something. It's like I'm always waiting for that one perfect moment. It's like I'm always waiting for that one perfect moment to start, of which if it doesn't come, I wouldn't bother, because I know I'll end up failing anyways. And because of that, I always end up having a lot of regrets because I'm not where I want to be or supposed to be because of my own hesitation or my fear of failure. You see, even at the point of writing this script, I keep on thinking whether I'll be able to fully express what I actually want to say and whether people will actually want to hear what I have in mind. And because of all these questions and all these thoughts, I think sometimes it's better not to even start at all. And if there's one thing that I fear having growing up, it's regrets. I look at my life and it looks like a collection of moments that I can never undo. Every single decision, every single word that I didn't say, every single step that I didn't take, it slowly becomes a weight that I can't seem to shake off. And I think subconsciously for a while now, I've been carrying that weight into the next year. And so I remember one time I was watching a sermon and the preacher pretty much said something along those lines as well. He was afraid that he will wake up one day and regret having given his life fully to God, serving Him, having nothing to show for. And by the world's standards, he would have squandered his 20s. But as he went on, he said that when he woke up on his 30th birthday, he did not feel a single ounce of regret, and he continued to serve God willingly and joyfully. And listening to that, I felt that it was so relatable because I myself, I'm nearing the end of my 20s, the so-called prime years of our lives, and I don't think I've done anything worth being proud of. But what was interesting was that while he was having all these fears, he still continued to serve God willingly and impacting many lives, among which one of them was me. I remember listening to this speaker speak at a camp that I attended roughly 10 to 11 years ago, and it had launched me into this wild ride of a journey with God. So much so that, honestly speaking, I wouldn't expect myself to be where I am today if it wasn't for that moment, and if it wasn't for his obedience to choose to do what God has called him to do, despite having the fear of regret of not achieving the goals that he has set out to achieve. What I'm trying to say is that while it's good for us to have goals, to have plans, to have some form of expectations, it's also important for us to recognize that even when we do not reach them, even when we do not accomplish them, it's actually not the end of the world, you know. Of course, it's easy for me to say that now, but when the rubber hits the road, we might not look at things that way. But we can still hold on to the hope that things will still turn out fine. Why do I say that? Because the Bible says that while a man's heart plans his ways, the Lord ultimately directs his steps. And I believe that God knows better than I do. Perhaps the end result shouldn't be the only thing that we focus on, but the journey as well. And more often than not, the journey, whether it's a smooth one or a rough one, it may even serve a greater purpose, greater than we can ever imagine, even when we may not be aware of it. We can trust that God will be in the driver's seat. And what we can do is to stay faithful in the journey so that He can bring us to where we should be, not where we want to be. So yeah, I may not be there yet, but I guess that's okay.